Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. The mistakes that are made when I am alone. Welcome, dear listener. You have decided for whatever reason to listen to another horrible gaming podcast, and I am alone today. I know usually I'm never alone. I think this is only the second time ever that I've been alone, and just to fill you guys in without blowing up my bro's spot, he had a family emergency kind of last minute that he had to deal with, so no anger towards the tiny wizard, aka Redbeard, aka giant head nerd. I don't know. But whatever's going on, he's told me a little bit of it, so I think everything's going to be okay, but it just made it impossible for him to get here and do the show tonight. So you will have a shorter show because I can only talk into the void for so long before I go crazy. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go over fan interaction. I'm going to respond to fan interaction, kind of talk to you guys, and then I'm going to do my odds and ends, which were kind of big, and kind of rant about them a little bit, and then we're going to call it. So this is definitely going to be a shorter show. There won't be any bonuses or cold opens because, you know, there's nobody here to make small talk to between the thing. I mean, if there was a bonus or cold open, it would be really confusing, I would say. I think at that point you guys need to call somebody for me if I'm just sitting here having a conversation with myself. All right. So all of that incredible disclaimer out of the way. Welcome to the Horrible Gaming Podcast. Before we get into it, we've got to thank the people who have made this possible. Number one, behind my ugly mug, you're seeing a custom picture that was designed by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and just about all of the shows here on Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes the music, my brother, Nick Van Sliders. We thank him for that. So, with that said, I'll be right back with everybody's favorite part, fan interaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so here we go. We're in the fan interaction. It's our first segment, the most important segment. That's where we, the co-host, or in this case, the co-host, talks to you, the fans, and reads out all your comments and all the places, and just answers them. You know, we're a smaller show, so we can do that, which is nice. So let's get into it. First and foremost, we had Asylum 66, showing my age, but I cast magic missile at the darkness, where I said, are there any girls there? Basically, this is an old sketch back in the day, nerdy sketch, which is a lot of fun. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But, yeah. Where are the Cheetos? It's great stuff, great stuff. So moving on, Asylum 66. Not Avowed. It's one of the few game releases that had my interest peaked. To which I responded to that, same here. Sorry you guys are hearing that. My family is fighting with our dog upstairs. Makes for great entertainment for you guys. Same here. After Obsidian did Fallout better than Bethesda, I wanted to see Elder Scrolls better than them next, laugh out loud. Which, I'm going to be honest, that's the truth, right? Like, Outer Worlds was a better Fallout than Fallout was. I'm sorry, hate to say it, hate to spill the tea on that, but it was. Obsidian makes great quality games, with the exception of their little botch recently with the Spacer's Choice Edition, which I'm going to get into in the odds and ends. They have a stellar track record of game design, game making, game creation, the whole nine yards. So, that being said, I really wanted to see them do a fantasy world. I kind of felt like that was going to be the closest we got to Skyrim, at least in my lifetime, because let's face it, Elder Scrolls 6 is a pipe dream at this point. But yeah, I felt like Obsidian could do it. Obsidian could do, without a doubt, make basically a Skyrim better than Skyrim, which, man, I'm here for that. I'm all here for that. So Hopefully I'm wrong, Asylum. Hopefully it's not shit canned. Hopefully it is going to be some surprise release, or we're going to see something about it at the E3 release. I feel like act number one when they bought Bethesda was to can Avowed. I just do. I don't think they need that studio making Bethesda games better than Bethesda. I mean, I just think about how much shame it puts them to. I mean, hell, Starfield has to compete with Outer Worlds, and I don't think they're going to accomplish it. I mean, I think they'll be very different games on a whole, but I think Starfield's going to fall short of the quality level that Outer Worlds achieved. So we'll have to see. Moving on. This is weird, isn't it? It's super weird. It was weird the last time I did it. So here we go. Zedric von Katamal, or Jason, as everybody knows him. I'm offended Neil has never seen Demolition Man. As am I, Jason. As am I. I bet he doesn't even know how to use the 3 seashells. You know how to use the 3 seashells? You know how to use the 3 seashells? He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells. Rob Schneider. I urge everybody to go check out the Honest trailer for Demolition Man that came out a couple of weeks ago. It's great. The Honest trailer Epic Voice guy actually goes into this whole rant about the 3 seashells and what it could possibly be, which is hysterical to me. Absolutely hysterical. So, moving on, we have Bloody Nose. Hi, Bloody Nose. How you doing, buddy? We need to get together and play some Dead by Daylight soon. I had so much fun playing that first time with you. I just feel like I'm always streaming or recording something. It's just ridiculous. But he says, R.I.P. E3. This is correct. E3, that was a crux of our show last week. E3 is basically dead. They've canceled it, and they didn't cancel it because of a pandemic this time. They canceled it straight up because nobody wanted to go. So as much as they keep saying it's going to come back, it can't. I mean, it can't come back unless developers go to it, right? Like, without the developers, it's just an empty warehouse. So I think that at that point, man, they are really going at it with the dog upstairs. At that point, we've got to just call it. We've got to call the E3 stuff, you know? It's a done deal. The era of E3 is done, and it's sad because, again, it's another check and balance that won't be there for us gamers. And really, it's just that's the trend in gaming right now, is just a slow and steady removal of all the checks and balances that keep us safe as consumers, is just going away. All right. Then Backdraft gets in on the action. Phantom voice Neil is great. So I figured out what the problem was, why Neil was vanishing. Somehow when Discord is windowed, if you have Discord full screen, you can have it in the background. I think, I've got to test this out, but you can have it in the background and also record the video up here. However, if it is windowed in any way, shape, or form, when something like overlays on top of it, it blacks out the screen. And while I thought it was in full screen, it was actually slightly windowed. So yeah, I think that was the issue. I think that's why it kept cutting Neil off. And I'm sorry to everybody. I didn't realize it because when I'm doing fan interaction, I'm looking at YouTube. I'm not looking at the OBS or the recording to see what's going on. I'm just reading the YouTube stuff, the YouTube comments to respond to. So I didn't notice it until halfway through the show. It's too late to go back at that point. We've come too far. All right, so moving on, we've got Backdraft. I could feel Asylum's soul die when you said Grudge instead of Sadako from The Ring. To which I said he'll live. And Asylum66 said, I won't say much. OMG has said multiple times he's not a horror guy. Let's be honest, Grudge and Ring have a lot in common if you don't know the details. And that's really it. I don't know the details. I'm not a horror guy. I am upfront about that. The fact that I play Dead by Daylight is actually kind of weird on that front. Like, I don't usually get into horror stuff. What gets me on Dead by Daylight is the mechanics of the gameplay. I think is phenomenal, especially if you're playing the killer. It's just so much fun. I would like a game like that if it was something other than horror, probably more than Dead by Daylight, just because I like the way the game plays mechanically. But I am not a horror guy, so I am sorry to any other Grudge / Ring fans out there that I got Sadako wrong from the wrong place. But yeah, I did say Grudge, and that was it. That's fan traction. Nice and quick and easy. We're getting right through this, and yeah. So bear with me. We're gonna go into my odds and ends next. We're gonna talk about ups and downs, highs and lows of all the cruddy stuff in gaming. And basically, you're just gonna hear me rant without any restrictor over there. So I don't know if that's going to be good for you guys or not, but that's what's going to happen. And again, look, this is probably not going to be our best show. I totally get it if you skip it. Really, this is up because I don't want to leave you guys hanging for a week. I don't like missing a week, and we were just kind of in a situation where, and Neil was still trying to make it, and I kind of said, hey, man, you got family stuff, deal with your family stuff. It's totally fine. So all good, all good. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for commenting. We will read them, and I'll ask Neil about some of them next week once he's on as well. So, all right, let's get into my odds and ends and all the shitty shit going on in the wonderful world of gaming.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to odds and ends. Like I said, no talking point, because what is the point of a talking point if it's just me, right? So let's go into the odds and ends. Let's talk about the stuff that I find crazy or insane about what's going on in the world of gaming. So first and foremost, we had this is on the negative. We had, I'm going to go negative, positive. I think that's the best way to go. So, number one, Obsidian actually had a rare fail recently, and I'm very bummed out about it. I'm hoping they right the ship. I'm hoping they get this right. But recently they released the Spacer's Choice Edition for Outer Worlds. Basically, it's a remastered game with the DLCs from the previous game, all included for the next generation, kind of your next generation bump. However, it has come out and it has been a disaster. Bugs everywhere, graphics drop, frame rate drops, huge errors. And we're not talking like little errors. We're talking about game wiping, like save wiping issues with the game, which has caused a lot of people to get really upset about it. And I have a hard time with this one because Obsidian gets a lot of love on this channel. I think all three of the remaining Foundation members love Obsidian. We all think very highly of them as a company. And all of our community members think highly of them as a company. They have, on our Horrible Game Awards, they've won, they basically won Developer of the Year, I think all but 1 year. So Obsidian is a great company overall. Their track record has been amazing. You think about what they've done with Outer Worlds 1, what they did with, Grounded. Like, Grounded is kind of like a triumph of games as surface and betas. They set the example without ever having done something like that before. And then you have just so many other games published through them that have been phenomenal, that have just hit all the buttons right. And I am a huge Outer Worlds fan. This was a game I was going to pick up after WWE 2K23. That being said, kind of rethought it, which is a bummer. I never got to play the DLCs for Outer Worlds, which is kind of a great regret of mine as a gamer, because I played a ton of the OG Outer World game. It's just I didn't have a lot of money when those DLCs were coming out. I was spending it on other things, and it just is what it is, So that being said, I think that this is a big botch from Obsidian, but I kind of go by the 3 strikes rule. Like, they've made a mistake. Let's see how they recover from it. Let's see how they pull this back. How will they right the ship? Can they right the ship? That's what we really need to see from them as a company. And I think every company out there is going to stumble and fall. And I'm trying to be a little bit more positive for them, because they've actually built up some goodwill. Unlike the other companies that we go after, that we really have a lot of animosity for. They have a lot of goodwill. They've made a lot of good games. They've done right by a lot of people. So to see this is a real bummer, and I'm hoping that they bounce that back. They fix that in the coming weeks. because honestly, I want to get Spacious Choice Edition. I want to play it. I want to stream it. I want to play the DLCs on stream. I've said that on one of my streams that I would have gotten that and played that instead of Grounded while I was waiting for the new update for State of Decay 2. But it's so busted that I don't want to put it on my PC. So yeah, let's fingers crossed they get that right, because it's a company I don't want to see fail. I don't want to see be miserable, you know? All right, that out of the way. Here we go with the next big negative one, and I got a lot to say about this one, and that is Ark Ascended. So there's Ark Evolved. They are this dinosaur survival game. It's super heavy survival mechanics, like you could poop in the game, stuff like that. And basically, this is definitely a heavy survival game, and I would say arguably one of the biggest survival games ever made, just because I think it's the one that really got survival games popular, that really put them on the map when it comes to that, like, craft your way out of a hole, thirst, hunger sort of feel to it. You look at Conan, that came after Ark. You look at some of the other ones. I think a lot of them would not exist if it weren't for Ark, Evolved. So we did see this trailer, and I can't remember if it was at the Game Awards or a little bit before, but it was last year, and it was a trailer with a CGI Vin Diesel, and basically they were announcing a sequel to Ark, called Ark Ascended. At the time that they had announced it, they kind of also said it would be kind of like a remastered kind of Unreal 5 edition of the game that would, like it would kind of be like an upgraded version. And they also said that everybody who had Ark would get it for free. They've walked that back. They have now said that they got ahead of themselves. The scope of the game is bigger than they thought, and they are now they're going to be charging a normal fee. In addition to that, they have also delayed it till 2024. And in addition to that, the roadmap that they've kind of put forward kind of looks like they're recycling all their original DLCs for this one. In addition to that, the original Ark Evolved will go dark on the day this starts. So there will be no, like, carryover. There will be no, like, leeway, which is kind of insane. I mean, you look at, like, Destiny. Destiny didn't go dark when Destiny 2 came out. Those servers were up for quite some time afterwards. You don't shut a game down the minute the next one comes out. What that does is it kind of makes you feel like the players are getting forced into buying the second one. And make no mistake about it, that's exactly what's happening here. Ark Ascended is a way for them to basically make the same game for the same price all over again with higher graphics. And this is a way to force you to buy it. And I think this is kind of shameful. I mean, and it's another black eye on games as service. This is a thing that I've been talking about for a long time. I am a huge proponent of games as service when done good. And let's face it, the last 3 years have been terrible for games as service. It's just been one hit after another, to where these services just keep looking worse and worse and worse, keep going downhill faster and faster and faster. And people are going to stop buying in. And in a lot of ways they have, because some of the games as service closing down recently have closed down because of lack of player base. They've closed down because of lack of player base because people just keep getting burned by these games as service. One thing that really bothers me about this too is I think this is short-sighted by the company. Because the company saying, hey, next year we're going to launch the second one, you got to buy the second one. This one's going away. What incentive do you have as a player to stay in that game now? Like, really think about that. What incentive do you have to continue to play when you've just put a very short time limit on the amount of time they have with that product? None. I mean, I can't speak for everybody out there, but for me, if I'm watching a TV show and I find out that TV show is canceled, I'm done. I don't watch any more episodes because I'm not going to get an ending. I'm not going to see the resolution of that. It's over. So for you to say to your player base, this game is already dead, it's going to create an exodus. And then where are you going to get the funds to finish the next one? I think that this is short-sighted by the company and very predatory. Very predatory. I think that, I do say at least they announced that they'd shut that down before the second one came out. They could have just been like, second one's out, first one's done, shutting it down in a week. That would have really gotten some backlash. So at least they gave you time to find your next game. But to put you in this position is terrible. On top of that, you have a company that straight up said this was going to be, free, and now it's not. Now you got to pay for it. The amount of bad news in that, the amount of respect they're giving you as a consumer is zero. They basically told you the game you're playing now is useless. It's going to be useless. You need to get the next game. You now have to pay for it, even though you bought into this game. The next game is basically going to be this game all over again. So we're just going to do the same stuff again. And on top of that, it's not even coming out when we said. This was just a litany of lies that they've told the consumers that they just hey, there you go. There's a bunch of lies. Have fun with that. It's shameful, man. It's shameful. How are you going to get away with that? How do people let them get away with that? I very much hope that this spells a disaster for that company. And don't get me wrong, I don't like to say, hey, I hope people lose their jobs. I don't want people to lose their jobs. I'm sure there are plenty of developers, boots on the ground developers, who are trying to make that game as fun and as great as they possibly can. But that company needs to take a blow for this, and I hope that the consumers really take it upon themselves to make them pay. There's something I talk about a lot on here, and I try not to be judgy of people on this one, because look, everybody's got to find their own truth out there. I know that seems like a weird statement, but it is. You got to find your own lines in the sand, your own battles to fight. You have to decide what is the war you want to stand on and what's not worth the fight. With that said, we have to start drawing the line somewhere. We have to start saying, no, this is not acceptable. We're not taking this. And these companies, you can go on Reddit all day. You can comment on YouTube videos all day. You can comment on social media all day. You can email blast them. You can review blast them. The only thing these companies are going to respect is loss of money, because that's the only thing they look at right now. I mean, for the most part, I'm sure that there's a couple of companies out there that you could say, these guys seem to really have the best interests of the consumers at heart. But that's how we stop this, guys. That's how we put this down. That's how we say no. You talk about my boycotting, and it's a silly bit we do for the show, but it's also not, because I stand by those. I have not played Halo Infinite, nor will I ever play Halo Infinite, because of what they pulled with their game. I am not playing Tears of the Kingdom, nor will I ever play Tears of the Kingdom, because what they are pulling on the consumers. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time. It's time for the hashtag. Hashtag boycott Ark Ascended. Now, in fairness, I was never going to play this game. I hate Ark Evolved. I'm sorry, everybody. I don't like it. If it's your thing, that's great, but it just doesn't interest me to punch trees for a half an hour while I poop in my hand for a raptor to then murder me so I could start all over again. Just not what I find fun. That being said, I will not play this, nor will I contribute to Ark Ascended in any way, shape, or form. And I think if you're a player out there who is having this done to them, there are other survival games. There are other good survival games. There are other games where they might consider your time and energy a little bit more valuable to them. Play one of those. Find a different one. Because we as a consumer base have to start saying, no, we're not going to take this. We are not going to put up to this. We're not going to give you our hard-earned money for this. And let's face it, These games have never been more expensive than they are right now. Never. In the history of gaming have they had more baseline price, had more upcharges, had more upsales, had more microtransactions. Never in the history of gaming has there been more monetary transactions in video gaming than there is right now. And they expect you to pay that regardless of whether they're giving you a quality product. Let's face it, that's not fair. You have to say no. You have to start being part of the solution instead of the problem. The only way to do that is to not give these people money. Like, we can get on this podcast and we can complain about that, but if we give them our money, then it's just as bad as anything else. And again, you got to draw your own lines out there. You got to decide what you're not going to take, what you're ready to fight the battle for. But I'm going to tell you right now, you need to pick something and you need to hold true. Because until we do, until we routinely say no to things, they're going to keep shoving this stuff down our throat. The other thing I kind of want to talk about on this one is the games as service hit. We've talked about there possibly being a games as service bubble. We've talked about like games as service being money grab attempts. We've talked about games as service as a whole. I enjoy the concept of a games as service because I like the idea of buying into a game that I enjoy that will constantly receive new stuff for me to do. One of my favorite things about Skyrim is the fact that I will never finish Skyrim. I will always have something new to find and do. I mean, even with the mods. And while that's not a games as service, that's still the principle that I take to games as service. That's what I want. I want to be like, here's the game. They're just going to keep adding stuff to it to keep you into this one game. I think that's amazing. I think that's great. I think as a concept, as a core concept and principle, that's a really cool one. And I am all here for that. The problem is these companies have started to look at it as a piggy bank, as a way to make fast money, as a way to make fast cash. They're forgetting the core concepts of games as service, the thing that we take the most seriously, which is the game has to be good. It has to be entertaining. It has to pull you in. It has to keep you there. Games as service don't, especially free-to-play games as service. I mean, we're talking about a games as service with a monetary value at it, which is a whole nother thing. But especially a games as service that is free-to-play, you don't make any money when they download it. That's the whole point. You don't make money until they decide that you're worth it to spend money on. And they have to decide that. The consumers have to decide that. So when you treat the consumers bad, when you release crappy content, when you do this kind of stuff to them, it hurts your bottom line. So we talked about this games as service bubble. And personally, I don't necessarily think there's a bubble for quality games as service. I think those quality games as service will stand the test of time. I don't think Destiny 2 is going anywhere. Regardless of its subpar updates or whatever, I think the core game is still fun and a quality experience. As long as that is there, it's not going anywhere. I don't even play Destiny 2. I just see it in that. Those games aren't going to go. Okay, those games of service that have been here forever. Fortnite. I hate Fortnite, but Fortnite is a quality games of service that still brings people in, that gives quality content. Like, it is what it is. It's not going anywhere. And the reason it's not going anywhere is not because of any other reason than it's decent. It's a decent game. I don't like it. It's not for me. But the core quality of the game is decent. And while they do have plenty of microtransactions in there, they still have a decent enough core quality game that those people keep coming back and find it worth it to spend it on the microtransactions. Those games are going to be here for years to come. These games are not. And that's the problem. That's the games as service problem. And I think that those games can be hurt by the amount of these games coming out, because then you hear the word games as service and you immediately do a snarly face because I don't want to get screwed over again. You know, you look at the multiverses thing and all that stuff. And that just speaks to, as whole, what we need is not games as service to go away. We need companies to start looking at them the way they should be looked at. And I'm going to speak to your pocketbooks here, companies. You'll make more money if you present a quality gaming experience and try not to screw over your player base. You'll make more money. You will make more money. You look at PSO2, Fortnite, Destiny 2. Like, look at those games. They're not going anywhere. And why are they not going anywhere? They're a core quality experience that doesn't necessarily truly fuck their player base over. So we need to stop doing that. We need to stop trying to bait and switch players. We need to stop trying to force players to buy something. We need to stop that stuff. And players, if you don't like that stuff, say no, man. Please start saying no. All right, rant over. I'm going to go to my final one, which is a positive one. And kind of on the games as service front, I know that this game would never be, like, no one would ever say, oh, this is definitely a games as service. But if you look at the amount of free updates this game has put forth, way more than any games as service out there. Plus, this game has an upfront price, and from what I could tell, no microtransactions throughout it. No Man's Sky. Another update dropped. The Interceptor update. This adds villainous capital ships that you could take out. This adds a whole new type of ship that you can find. Whole new types of worlds to explore. And while there are still a lot of things in No Man's Sky that I would love to see in No Man's Sky that haven't made it in there, another sizable quality update from that. We're talking about like 22 updates on this game. They just keep adding stuff. And it's all for free. It's all pushed to you for free outside of the base cost of No Man's Sky to start with. And if you have Game Pass, it's on there. So that's kind of stuff. Like just move right into that positive. And again, I would call a No Man's Sky a games as service. I know it's not supposed to be called one because you're not incurring this ongoing fee. But just the amount of, like, every 3 months they drop a bunch more content in our laps. That's amazing. That's amazing. If you're a No Man's Sky fan, you could literally have been playing that for the last, like, 5 years nonstop and just had new stuff coming at you. So I think that that is a good example of what these companies should be looking at and doing. And I'll tell you what, if No Man's Sky was free to play and it charged $2 for the content updates every so often, who wouldn't pay that? You know, like, that would be a fair exchange. I think that, like, the biggest thing that these companies are missing is that you need to have that core experience. You need to give players a reason to be in your game for an extended period of time. You know? I think that that's what we should be talking about, what we should be moving through as an industry. All right, well, that's it. That's all I have to say. And I know it's only been about 32 minutes, but we're gonna get done. Like I said, just trying to throw something up for you guys. I know that this is not long or big or whatever, but we'll be back next week with the normal stuff. Neil will be back on, and we'll be arguing about, you know, everything basically, and everybody will be a little bit happier with that. So I hope that this didn't put anybody off to the next show, but we will be back with normal bells and whistles. And honestly, I can already tell you what we're doing next week for the topic, unless some news breaks that's crazy. We're gonna do our we're gonna rattle off what we think the best console ever made was. So that should be a really fun conversation that we're both excited to have. So, all right, well, I'm gonna be right back with plugs as per se usual, and then I'm gonna be done. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm sorry it wasn't as long, but I can only talk by myself for so long.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Nice, quick, easy one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks to everybody for commenting, and anybody who got it this far, of just one dude basically talking into a camera for nearly 40 minutes. Couple of quick plugs. I do have some stuff coming up. We've got a new episode of the TTRPG podcast coming this Friday. We were behind a little bit because our unofficial TTRPG partner, Wizards Respite, got the big C word. But we're recording that soon, and that should be up on Friday. Please also check out our narrative form RPG game. Well, our narrative retelling of our original RPG game, Womanizer's Guide to Axiom, every Monday morning. I will also be doing all my normal gaming streams. I'm doing Grounded right now during Tuesday. Amateur Hour, we're into Sifu Arenas, which is a lot of fun. And I think I'm going to be back with Hard Rock Horror this Friday, or at least something comparable. And then we will also be a week from... this Thursday, we will be doing the one-on-one sessions will come back. Myself and Wizards Respite when we play a game one-on-one. We finished our last T-Shop playthrough. We're going to be playing one of my all-time favorites. The first game I ever game mastered, that's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. I'm going to be running a quick game for him. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please check that out. I'm also going to be my Axiom. I'm sorry about the TTRPG stuff, but we're starting to ramp that up a little bit on the channel. My solo journaling game about being a wrestling promoter, I actually had a stream about it this last Thursday. I think I'm going to keep doing that. You guys actually seem to like that. Got quite a few views, more than I expected. And it's just, I run a wrestling promotion. I basically tell you guys a story about wrestling in the theater of the mind. So please check that out. I'm trying to get somebody to play it with me. We'll see if he does. We'll see if he don't. But that'll come back probably the week after this. So keep a lookout for that. All right. I think that's all the things for right now. You guys can contact us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord. Links in the description below. Influence this and all of our shows from there. Last, final plug. Booking Impact GM goes up on Saturdays. It's just me playing 2K23 GM mode, but I try and do Impact Wrestling on there if you're a wrestling fan. And then OMGM with myself and Grandpa Gamer has started in 2K23. You guys really enjoy that, so we're going to keep that going. So as long as you keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. We'll see you guys next week with a proper show. You guys have a good one.